Hello True Light Yoga family. Today we're going to be doing a short session on the hips. We're going to be talking about opening up the hips, so maybe if you don't have time for a full yoga flow, but you're about to go surfing or go to CrossFit and you want to warm up your hips, or perhaps you're a yoga practitioner, but this yoga video is going to be giving you a little bit more deep concentration on the hips, so that when you're in yoga, you can be safe in some of the poses. So sometimes in a yoga class, in a group class, we traditionally enter some postures that if you have hip issues might be harmful. So by taking a deep dive into these poses and some different ways you can enter them and things you can do, including facilitated stretching to keep your muscles safe, you can go to your normal yoga class and still practice with everybody else without your hips hurting. Different things work for different bodies, so sometimes the traditional approach works, sometimes it does not. Sometimes yoga teachers don't have time in every single class to break down in the deep way that we're aiming to today. So we'll just do a couple of poses, but they'll be focused around the hip area. And we'll also be speaking about the body-mind perspective. So sometimes when our hips are tight, it's a reflection of what's happening internally. I had a client last week say to me that her hips lock up her lower back. Her hips are tight and it locks up her lower back. And I asked her to consider, anywhere else in her life that she's maybe locking up, like this is the way it has to be, like kind of right or wrong, black and white thinking. And that can make us feel kind of stuck or like locked up. And so we'll be talking a little bit about that philosophy from PhD Charlotte Castle's If the Buddha Got Stuck, and how that relates to the body-mind as far as opening up the hips. So just to get started, we'll come down onto our backs in Supta Baddha Konasana, which means feet together, knees wide in that butterfly pose, and just come down onto your spine. You can adjust the stretch by bringing your feet further from your body or closer to your body. And let's just start to take some deep, full breaths. Maybe inhaling through the nose. Exhale through your mouth and sigh it out. And take a few more breaths like that. Inhaling through the nose. Exhaling with some sound. And you can make it as loud as you want, right? Practicing at home, just allow that sound, that energy to leave your body if it's stuck or if it needs to come out. Maybe closing the eyes or allowing them to be halfway open, softly gazing at the ceiling. And just starting to scan your body for anywhere that you might feel stuck, tight, locked up. And begin to send your breath to those places. And you stay here as you continue to dive into your breath. Imagine that with every exhale you take, your knees get a little bit closer to the ground. Neuroscientist and pharmacologist Candace Pert said, the body is the unconscious mind. And what she meant by that is that being stuck in our mind emotionally is often reflected in the body as a feeling of congestion or being tightly held. So where in yoga we'll be doing stretches to open the body, there has to be a mental component as well, or we will only get so far. She says if you simply observe people walking and talking. You can get a sense of their internal state. Notice their sense of openness, friendliness, symmetry, ease of motion, or lockedness, tightness, closed offness, flightiness. In the book Waking the Tiger by Peter Levine, he suggests that holding places in the body come from a response to fear or from trauma, in which arousal patterns may have been evoked in us, but not completed. And what that means is an arousal pattern was evoked as in we were in danger or somebody attacked us or hurt us in some way. And rather than fighting back like an animal might, like our instinct would be to, we played small, got quiet, and didn't fight back for whatever reason, whether that was to keep us safe, to keep our job, whatever it may have been. The thing is, our body doesn't understand that. And when the physical fight, flight, arousal patterns were stimulated in your body, adrenaline pumping, increased heart rate, cortisol, muscles tensing, they never get charged and they remain stuck in the body. If you had been able to move, shake, run as animals do, the arousal cycle would have been completed and your body would have come to rest. But these kind of unfinished situations lead to holding patterns in the body that can become chronic over time. So my hope for you is that through these exhales with sound, through this space on your mat to be safe, to cry, to let out emotion, maybe to shake and scream and move, that you can let any stuckness move through you so that you can find more freedom off your mat in your body as well as your mind. Take 5 more deep breaths here, feeling the ribs expand on inhale, and belly button pulls in on the exhale. Imagining that each exhale, you send it to the place in your body where you're feeling the stuckness. Saying, I see you. I hold space for you. I release you. Taking that long, deep breath. And then allowing your hands to come to the outsides of the thighs. Press the knees together, release the pose. Walk your feet in a little bit closer to your body. Walk, just let the knees fall from side to side. So doing a little windshield wiper motion here, knees fall from side to side. And then when you're ready, knees can come back to center. Press into your feet, squeeze the glutes to lift your heels, stretching your hip flexors, the front of your hips in bridge pose. Keep pressing into your big toes for this balancing action as your glutes squeeze and lift up. So sometimes traditionally in yoga, we said, relax your glutes. The reason for that being is that when we squeeze our glutes, it naturally externally rotates the thighs and knees out to the side, but we're looking for this alignment with the knees straight. As you hold your bridge pose, keep breathing into your chest. But we can activate our glutes. It's an important part of this pose to carry the weight of the pelvis, to activate the posterior chain. We activate the glutes, we squeeze up, but we add a balancing action of pressing into the big toes that bring the knees back into alignment. Take one more deep breath here, squeezing the glutes, pressing into big toes, then exhale and release down. Straighten out your legs to release and maybe shake the legs out. Maybe tap them. And we'll roll over onto a comfortable side and come up into a seat. From here, feet will come together knees wide again in butterfly or Baddha Konasana. And this time we'll be entering it as a facilitated stretch. So while we press our elbows into our shins, I want you to also press your shins back into your elbows. Ooh, that feels a little different, huh? So hold here, hold with your elbows pressing into shins, shins pressing into elbows. And you're starting to say, I don't like this, Rachel. I like the ooey gooey, nice stretch version of this. Why are you making me do this? Hold, breathe, softening your face and jaw. This is our facilitated stretch, activating the same muscles in which we are stretching. And you can release. So release for a second, take a deep breath in. Exhale into round two, pressing elbows into shins, shins back into elbows. So as we stretch our adductor muscles and our hips, we're also activating them. And the reason for facilitated stretching is because research is showing that actually facilitated stretching or activating the muscles while you stretch them will help us to get a greater range of flexibility faster. I'm not saying you have to throw normal stretching out the window, but in some yoga poses, it's safer to activate while stretching and protects us from overstretching. The body can feel that, and it allows you to open and release more easily because it feels safe, because it's active while stretching. Release that one, come up, deep breath in. Good, exhale, last round. Elbows into shins, shins back into elbows. You might be folding, relaxing your head and neck here. And so in this class, we'll be doing a lot of facilitated stretching, this kind of active stretching, telling our body it is safe to release and open up, and strengthening while we stretch and open. Good, we'll slowly start to release. Coming out of that, we'll come onto hands and knees. Good, and then just make some big hip circles. So you can start by going from side to side, and then you're gonna allow the hips to come back and around and make these big hip circles. There's no right or wrong here. Just allow your body to move. Maybe you're asking your body what it wants, like, ooh, I think it feels nice to totally straighten out my legs as I come forward, almost like an upward facing dog. Or if you find a tight spot and you want to kind of rock back and forth there, right? There's no right or wrong. So starting to drop out of these ideas of right or wrong that maybe keep us safe, and allowing yourself to know that you are safe, to live in the gray area, to let go of rigidness. We'll go in the opposite direction. You might even allow yourself to get a little kind of sexy with it, right? Have a little fun with it. Moving with your breath, fluid like water. No right or wrong here. Good. One more big, big circle. And then we'll curl the toes under. From here, step your right foot through. Inhale, rise up into a lunge. We'll lift the left knee, so you're coming into a high lunge. Good. And we're gonna transition to warrior two, but not just yet. So from your lunge pose, right? Normally when we open to warrior two, we drop the heel and then let the hip follow into this open hip position. But what I would like to do is something a little bit different. Sorry, adjusting here. So usually we come from our lunge pose and then we drop the heel, and that's what guides us into our warrior two. Today, to avoid hip impingement, we let the hip guide the action. So maybe even bring your hands to your hips, let your left hip start to open, and then the heel follows suit. We come into our warrior two. Take a deep breath in here. As you exhale, straighten out right leg, bend in the left knee. We come down to Skandasana. Big hip and hamstring opener. You can use your hands to support. You can hover here. But something I'd like you to do is, rather than just overstretching in the adductors here, maybe you can get really low. I want you to come a little bit higher. So think about squeezing right heel and left heel in together to find the facilitated stretch, to activate your adductors while you stretch them. Crisscross your hands, straighten out your right leg. Inhale, rise up to your lunge once again. Good. Open up, warrior two. Beautiful. From here, straighten out your front leg. So we're gonna be dissecting triangle now. You might make your stance a little bit shorter. Our more traditional way of entering triangle is that we open up our hips, tuck our tailbone, and then we reach, and drop. So what happens here is that sometimes opening from this way or entering triangle from this way, where our tailbone is tucked and our hips are open, is there's hip impingement on the front hip, a little bit of bone on bone that doesn't feel good. So a way that you can prevent that is instead you're going to angle your back foot, almost like you're entering pyramid instead of triangle. Let your back hip point down. So our hips are square, closed off. Then I come down to frame my front foot. Bring that right hand down, maybe to a block, and then my left hand lifts up. As I'm here, I continue to try to angle my back thigh down while pressing my front foot out to the side. So I'm pressing into my front heel and spinning my front leg out, and then I have a balancing action of spinning the back thigh down. This activates the glutes and creates a stability for the posture while keeping my hips nice and safe. Now there is nothing wrong necessarily with coming into the traditional open hip triangle if it feels good in your hips. In fact, it can be even better for lateral flexion of the spine. So if your aim is to get a nice side bend here, then this is the pose to go for. But if you want to keep your hips safe, we're going to square the hips, right? Back leg points down, reaching right leg to the inside, or right hand to the inside, left arm reaches up. So take your variation of triangle. Good, deep breath in, deep breath out. One more deep breath in, and exhale, hands come down. We'll step that left leg back, walk the right foot halfway across. So we're coming into pigeon pose. Now in pigeon pose, this is another pose that a lot of people, I'm gonna turn to face you guys. When we talk about pigeon pose, a lot of people have pain in their knee, and then they go immediately onto their back, and that's great if that's what you want to do. But I want to offer you a couple options of ways to activate your pigeon pose that might feel a little bit different from the sleepy way that maybe you normally take it. So from your pigeon, take your front foot, pull the toes towards the knee, and then press into your pinky toe. This is called eversion of the ankle joint. So it would be like I could slip a piece of paper in between your ankle bone and the mat. So this ankle bone is actually lifted off the mat. So my front foot's gonna stay nice and active there. Then I'm gonna drive down into my right knee. So press into your right knee to find a lift up. Now the point of doing this, as you hold your pigeon, is that the right hip, right, and thigh bone are in deep external rotation. So if the shin comes into a deep internal rotation when we do our sleepy relaxed pigeon and we're not active, it sometimes puts a lot of pressure on the knee joint to have deep external and then internal. Now the shin will still be in internal rotation, but we're trying to fight that a little bit by doing eversion of the ankle joint and thinking about it spinning down, so that we have both leg bones kind of in that external rotation. So drilling down with that right knee, pressing into the right pinky toes. And then lastly, I know it's getting intense. I know you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go back to my old pigeon. Think about your right knee and left knee squeezing in together, and you find a little bit of lift here, a little bit of buoyancy in the hips. Now that is the pigeon that I would like you to be in, especially if you have knee pain in pigeon. Maybe from there you come down into your pigeon pose. And I know it's starting to get uncomfortable because you're active here, right? But remember, The mind wants to come out of the pose about 10 times faster than the body usually really needs to. If you're safe, if you're activating and safe in the posture, you can be here for another 2 deep breaths. Great job. Now hands will come to frame that front foot. Activate your core, protract the shoulder blades, step right foot back to meet your left. From here, left foot comes forward. Inhale, rise up to your lunge pose. Awesome. So find your lunge, front knee forward, back knee soft. Good. Heel over the ball of the foot. Good. Then maybe trying to lift up that back hamstring. Now from here, when we transition from lunge to warrior 2, to avoid hip impingement, we're going to let the hip guide the action. The heel follows suit. We'll do that again. Rise into your lunge pose. Rather than dropping the heel and letting the hip just follow you, maybe even bring the hands to the hips. Open the hip, let the heel follow the hip. We open up, warrior 2, deep breath in. Exhale, straighten out left leg, bending right knee, coming into Skandasana. From our Skandasana, maybe you can get really low. You get a deep stretch in the adductors here. I'd like you to think about your front heel and your back heel squeezing in together, and you find a little lift here. This little lift gives you a sense of buoyancy and activates the adductors, protecting them from overstretching. Press into that front foot, crisscross the hands. Inhale, warrior 2. Good. Exhale, straighten out front leg. From here, walk the back foot in a little bit. So we're setting up for our triangle pose. Okay, once again, traditionally, right, maybe you try it both ways. Traditionally, we have this open hip, tucked tailbone, like a little teapot. We reach forward and we pour out. We get a nice lateral flexion of the spine, big side body stretch. And if your hips feel good here, and you're looking for a nice big side body stretch, this is a great place to be. Now, if you are looking to protect your hips in triangle pose, what you'll want to do is shift this back leg forward. My hips are now square to the front of the mat. I'm thinking about front leg spinning out, so I'm pressing into my big toe and my heel, and I'm thinking about spinning this leg out to the side. My back foot, back leg is spinning into the center of the mat. So it's doing the opposite action. This will create a sense of stability by turning on the glutes. From here, with my closed hip position, I come down to frame my front foot. I'll leave my left hand down and then open up into my triangle pose. Continue to press right thigh, spinning down towards the center of the mat. Take a deep breath in. Good, deep breath out. Take 2 more, deep breath in. Deep breath out. Hands come down to frame front foot. Good job. Setting up for our pigeon pose here. So once again, reiterating this active pigeon pose. So normally, right, we come down and we sleep into this pigeon pose. Our foot might not be active. We're just kind of, our body weight allows gravity to put a lot of pressure into the joint. It kind of adds to the range of motion of the joint because we're melting into it like gravity and putting our upper body on the knee joint. So some ways you can protect it is to press into the left pinky toe. Your front pinky toe, whatever foot is front. So press into the front pinky toe. E version of the ankle joint. Should be able to slip a piece of paper in between the ankle bone and the mat. Then drive into your left knee so that we have external rotation in the left thigh, also trying for external rotation in the front shin. This creates a little sense of buoyancy in the hips as left knee and right knee pull towards one another. With this activation staying here, maybe then you fold into your pigeon pose. I know that it's not as easeful and comfortable, but it will benefit our body more in the long run to do it this kind of hard way of the facilitated stretch. Allow yourself to take 2 more deep breaths here. Big release. Good. And then slowly start to roll onto your left side and swing around. Good. From here, inhale, pull your chest through your shins, open up. Exhale, round the back. One more like that, inhale. Exhale, all the way down up to your spine. From here, allow your knees to drop over to the left. Maybe you want to wrap right leg on top of left in eagle pose. As you move from your mat today, where can you notice your stuckness? Whether it's stuck in a methodology of the way that others should do something, of the way that your life should look. Where can I move from being stuck, locked up, to being more open and fluid? Wind out of your twist, coming up to the other side. Left leg wraps around right. Drop the knees to your right side, maybe pressing left shoulder down. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Where in my body might I feel stuck? Whether it's yelling, running, jumping, shaking, singing, whatever you need to do to release it. Can you allow yourself the time and space to let your body know that it is now safe? Slowly start to unwind, coming onto your back for Shavasana, where we'll start to take 5 deep breaths, integrating our practice and the work that we've done here today. Creating space between top and bottom teeth. Softening in your jaw. The body is the subconscious mind. It is all one. And every challenge that we have in our body is just an invitation to release more deeply, to open our hearts a little bit more. You can slowly start to bend in your knees, stepping them onto the mat. Roll over to a comfortable side and press yourself up into a seat. Bringing your hands nice heart center and sealing out your practice for your day with a deep, full breath. The light and loving energy within me is the same light and loving energy within you. To that we say, Jai Bhwan, Namaste. Thank you so much for practicing with me. If you have any questions about hips, facilitated stretching, the ideas that we talked about today, please send me a message. I'd be happy to discuss with you. And I hope that these practices and tips serve you well in creating a safe, healthy, sustainable practice and body. Have a great day. Thank you. Thank you for letting me be the voice behind your practice.